This is video 59, demanding the release of Mumia Abu-Jamal from prison. And over the weekend, Francis Golden had passed away. Francis Golden was a literary agent of Mumia and a strong housing rights activist. And I received an email from Prison Radio from Noel Hammerhand that I wanted to read. Dear friends, Francis Golden was ferocious. There is a place on this earth for beautiful, fearless, and courageous women. She never once turned her back on a fight. When Robert Moses tried to bulldoze her block in the 50s, the capitalist bully met his match. Frances drove right in and hung on. It took literally 50 years, but her iridescent anger and trenchant love of her friends in her neighborhood saved the East Village of New York. Frances and Mumia were made for each other. Brilliant, dedicated, revolutionary writer on death row meets socialist literary agent and brazen provocateur. What was not to love? The transcendent literary career of Mumia Abu-Jamal was built on Francis' belief in his writing. Starting with Live from Death Row in 1994, Mumia got the recognition he deserved, becoming a best-selling author, moving beyond pamphlets and protests. With Francis as a lifeline, Mumia garnered the international stage. Everything begins with a favor, although to hear Terry tell it, it might have been a demand. In the summer of 1994, I asked Terry Bissum to help place Live from Death Row, and I asked that he help me find an agent. I knew his book had an audience. It was simply a question of could we reach it. Terry answered, there is one person, and her name is Francis Golden. In 1994, NPR's All Things Considered had just hired and fired Mumia. Democracy Now! Was championing him. Mumia's right to speak and the critical value of what he had to say were being hotly contested in the national media and on the Senate floor. It was perfect time for his first book to be born. Terry and I traveled to Francis's East Village office apartment on 11th Street and made our pitch. She was Francis, bold, brash, and curt. You do all the prep work, and I'll write the cover letters, and we'll see what happens. 2 weeks later, Mumia was under contract and had a $30,000 advance and a hardcover edition of Live from Death Row. The bond between Mumia and Francis grew. She wrote thousands of letters to him over the last quarter century of her life. Here is just one of Francis's stories. Francis wrote a note on the back of a picture of herself that she sent into the prison. The prison censors went mad. The picture was of Francis, 87, reading a book, nude from waist up. The picture got Francis banned. The prison radio launched a campaign on her behalf to reinstate her rights. It took months of calls and letters, and round after round with the prison administration, but eventually she was able to visit again. She can now sit side by side with him. Mumia had just gotten off death row and was able, for the first time after 30 years, to have visiting rights. Mumia's comments on what it meant to him to have a contact visit, and Mumia also recorded a beautiful memorial in Francis's memory on the website of Prison Radio. I had many visits to Francis's apartment at 305 East 11th Street. I would stop and bring updates to Mumia's case along with Venero's, Cannoli, and Splementi. Thank you, Francis, for championing courageous and moving authors like Mumia, Adriana Rich, Barbara Kingsolver, and Dorothy Allison. Thank you for bringing their words into the world. One night I was reading a copy of Francis's own book to my son Miles. He reached over and filled his name in. He knew it was for him as well as for me. Francis had signed a book for Noel. Long live Francis Golden's spirit and those who dare to follow in her footsteps. When we fight, we win. Noel Hammerhand. In solidarity from imprisoned nation, this is Mumia Abu-Jamal.